So it is James Gunn. Finally, he made his big announcement of what he's going to the whole big plan with the kind of DC universe.
Dude said he was gonna make announcements in January, and motherfucker waited until the last day.
Yeah, he blue balled y'all.
he was edging y'all. Let's be real.
We were refreshing Twitter like the end of Social Network, just James Gunn's page. Did he say something yet?
So he unveiled the whole big plan that he and Peter Safran have come up together with, and answered a lot of questions that people have when they announced like they're basically going to be starting from square one again, and saying like, you know, are they going to just reboot everything from scratch? And there was all this big news of what's staying and what's going.
Not so much just starting from scratch, just letting this current run of films finish out up until The Flash and then Blue Beetle, and letting those films release and then starting clean.
Right.
Well, clean-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's messy, but we'll get there.
Yeah. It's messy, but it's more of a concrete plan that we've had from DC in 10 years since.
Shit,
yeah. So with James Gunn mentioned in it, and I'll read off all the slate of projects that are going to be coming up. So he mentioned that how basically what a lot of people predicted, the Flash movie that's going to be coming out is going to basically reset everything, reset things, and it's going to lead into like other projects like Blue Beetle, which is coming. So that's still out there. That's still coming. You know, he basically confirmed that. I know that for a lot of people was kind of shaky, but that's definitely, so that apparently that's coming out. And then also he mentioned Aquaman 2, which is also going to be coming out as well, which he mentioned.
Aquaman 2 and Shazam are the two ones that are the three that are coming out.
Yeah.
That are still kind of on the tail end of this Snyderverse, and then also Blue Beetle.
Yeah.
Kind of, sort of, yeah.
Yeah, and then he also kind of mentioned that like people also wondering about what about Todd Phillips' Joker, and then Matt Reeves' Batman, and then also we are getting a Batman sequel that is coming out 2025. We are doing a Batman.
They said, yeah, and Gunn clearly divided the two different lines, and saying that projects like that, when they have interest, they're going to be clearly labeled as DC Elseworlds, which that was like a line that was taking place outside of the main DC continuity. And that has always kind of been a missed opportunity for a studio like this, because you already have that built-in like Elseworld stuff.
Yeah.
Where you can do different things with these characters. And especially because Matt Reeves' The Batman was so successful and Pattinson's so beloved as that take of the character, it'd be criminal if we didn't get a sequel to it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I love the Batman. The more I watch it, the more I dig it.
Mm-hmm. And even a film that I'm kind of lukewarm, Joker, I'm curious to see what he does with Foyadu. I think is yes. I think that's how you pronounce the title of it, especially to see Lady Gaga's take on Gwen.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is curious, because I don't take Joker as seriously as most of the world did. I laugh at it now. I'm like, all right, you're being a little bit exaggerated. But like you said, like the fact, like on paper, it's like, okay, so we're doing a Joker sequel. It's a musical.
Yeah.
The Joker and Harley Quinn starring Lady Gaga. I want to see that.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on to the DCU proper. So we've gotten the big thing, the big plan that we've been waiting for, and they've said that this cinematic universe is gonna expand and not just be covering films. It's gonna be covered over animation, over television, over video games, with the idea that characters appearing in one medium are going to play those roles across different mediums. So a character in an animated show is going to reprise that role in live action. A character in a video game is going to do vice versa. And everybody's going to be concrete in that role.
Yeah. which I'm interested to see because that seems like a lot for an actor to do, like to do the voice work. You know what I mean, in both animation and then the video games. I mean, that's a long time spent there,
I
kind of
mean,
doing all that stuff.
I mean, it's I mean, it's also in a studio that has been known for their animation and a facet of DC Comics that has been known for their animation and getting a lot of like non voice actors really and getting really good performances out of them,
Right.
especially in this like newer phase of the DC animated films right now with stuff like Super Sons, with the Superman Man of Tomorrow, which we covered on the show. Even
I love Super Sons, by the way.
even
I,
to an extent, the Jensen Ackles Batman movie, the Long Halloween.
Yeah,
yeah, and I think he's done it for a while. I think he's done Batman like a couple times.
yeah,
Yeah, he's reprising the role in a Legion.
yeah.
That's right.
It's just interesting to see like when he says that because if there is going to be things where it's just like you're going to have the animation and the shows and the video games that you just have that, and then it's going to allow them to kind of do other animation stuff that isn't connected to it, or video game stuff that isn't too connected to the universe that they're allowed to do.
Well, it's
Uh,
it. I think they said it's like in the universe, but may or may not tie in all that close because you have projects like Creature Commandos, which is a 7 episode animated series that is already in production, and it's going to be sounds like it's going to be a period piece because they said they're fighting Nazis, or it could be set during 2020. Who knows?
Hey,
so you mentioned Creature Commandos. I guess you could just talk about the slate
yeah, let's
of.
just line them up.
Yeah, so James Gunn mentioned there's going to be Waller, which is a spinoff of HBO Max Peacemaker. Is going to Viola Davis is going to return as Amanda Waller, which I love. Love her as Amanda Waller, so that's pretty great. And it's going to have Jeremy Carver, who's the creator of the Doom Patrol series, on it. Love Doom Patrol. I think that
And
series is really
yep,
great.
and it's being written by Crystal Henry, who was in the writers' room for Watchmen. And just a point I want to make real quick. It's not just James Gunn and Peter Safran that are the masterminds behind this brand new slate of DC rooms. To come up with the direction, James Gunn assembled a writer's room of some of the best and brightest in terms of comic book media today. He's gotten people like Drew Goddard, who was the showrunner for Daredevil and also wrote The Martian. You have Christina Hodson, who did Birds of Prey and the canceled Batgirl movie and is the credited screenwriter on The Flash. So fingers crossed there. You had the showrunner for Moon Knight, which was Jeremy Slater. You have, of course, I mentioned Crystal Henry, and you have Tom King, who wrote a run on Supergirl, which is going to be an inspiration for the upcoming film, and also wrote one of my favorite runs of Batman, which is the I Am trilogy, and also wrote Vision a while.
One of my favorite comic stories of like the last 10 years, that Vision.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
He's also got Superman Legacy. This movie is featuring the Man of Steel that Gunn is writing for, and he possibly will direct. You got Lanterns, which is finally the long-awaited Green Lanterns team series that they've been kind of doing.
And and the biggest thing, Greg Berlanti's long-planned Green Lantern show, crap.
Get out of here.
So
this show is going to be a new take on space cops, very much in the vein of True Detective, which okay.
Woo! I was like,
which is
the biggest thing that they've announced is that this show is going to focus on Jon Stewart and Hal Jordan, which
hell yeah.
give it to me now, please.
and they mentioned
on the Black Lanterns.
and they mention how that this is plays a big role in leading into a main story with telling across film and TV. So there we have that. There's The Authority, which is a movie based on a team of superheroes with rather extreme methods of protecting the planet that first originated in the late 1990s. You also have Paradise Lost, which is a duo described this HBO Max series as a Game of Thrones style drama set on the all-female island that Wonder Woman's birthplace, the Mascara. You have The Brave and the Bold. This is the introduction to the DC Batman that they're going to have, said Gunn. And it's going to have the Robin B. Damian Wayne.
That little shit.
which I have a lot of thoughts on this, but we'll get into that after. But the biggest thing is that this Batman, the one that's going to be featured in Brave and the Bold, is not going to be Robert Pattinson.
Yes.
Yes.
Right. It's going to
Just so
be,
everybody knows.
yeah, it's going to be a
New
separate,
guy.
Everyone,
because that's Elseworlds. Matt Reeves, like he said that in his whole big introduction, that's separate. The Matt Reeves Batman's Elseworlds, which I like because watching the Batman, I was like, you know what? I like the fact that it's just the Batman.
yeah,
I kind
It's
I
just broken
love.
off into this other
Yeah,
world.
exactly. I love the Batman. I love this take on the character, but I do not see how he interacts with a character like Superman.
He doesn't talk to anybody. He barely talks to Catwoman.
He barely talks to Jim Gordon.
Yeah. He just says, yeah.
but even though that they're gonna have another Batman play him in the bigger, broader DCU. A Batman sequel is coming. They did say that, so it is coming. It will be released October 3rd, 2025. Titled The
Hey, that's a
Batman.
week before my birthday.
So that's pretty nice. So,
Nirvana song are they going to use?
And it's titled The Batman Part 2, which Jamarco and I talked about this. You know when they put Part 2 in the
yeah.
It's about to go off.
Then another one's coming up. So the next project is Booster Gold, an HBO Max series based on a unique, lesser-known hero created in 1986. So Safran said of the series is about a loser from the future who uses basic technology to come back to today and pretend to be a superhero. I think that's got good potential. I did like
Waiting on Booster Gold for a while.
Nathan Flynn's suggestion of Glenn Powell from Top Gun
Yes.
Maverick. I think that would be a
I
pretty
dig
good, pretty good pick there for Booster Girl. I think he can do it really, really well. You also got Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, taking its cues from the recent Tom King written miniseries. This movie promises a different take than most think of what most think of when Superman's cousin comes to mind. We will see the difference between Superman, who is sent to Earth and raised by loving parents from the time he was an infant, versus Supergirl, raised on a rock, a chip of Krypton, and who watched everyone around her die and be killed in terrible ways for the first 14 years of her life, and then come to Earth. She's much more hardcore and not the Supergirl we're used to. So it's very interesting.
Well, it's not really interesting if you've read a Supergirl comic in the past like 20 years, because like most people, their perception of Supergirl mostly comes from the terrible, terrible 90s movie. And even to an extent, the CW show, which, as much as I like it, they just gender swapped Clark Kent
That's
and
it.
wrote Supergirl as that. And in the comics, Supergirl is a much darker character. She didn't wind up on Earth as an infant. She had 14 years of her life on Krypton. She got to see everybody she loved died, and she's much more jaded than Clark is about living on Earth. She doesn't have the same connection to humanity that Clark does, and that's what makes her such a fascinating character. And I like that we're getting something closer to that, especially taking cues off Tom King's run miniseries, which I haven't read myself, but I've heard nothing but amazing things about it.
And I can't wait to read it as well.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna announce the last one. I'm gonna get everybody's opinion
the
on.
last one is
Swamp
last
Thing.
one is Swamp Thing, which is a horror film closing out the first part of the first chapter of the DCU, which is being called Gods and Monsters.
Yeah, buddy.
So Jamarco, I'll go to you.
Yes, sir.
What do you think about all these projects, and which one are you most excited for? Which one are you least excited for? Do you think this is a good step in the right direction? Everything like.
Yes, and yes to all of it. I adore James Gunn. He's made at least 3 of my favorite films. I love what he did with Guardians and Suicide Squad. So when I heard he was running DC, I was just like, all right, we're getting somewhere. So what I'm most excited for is because I've been dying to see some good Superman content. Superman Legacy is high on the list. So is Brave and the Bold because because James Gunn was talking about Superman, him writing it. He was just like, this is a character who understands kindness in a world that doesn't understand it. Superman is supposed to be good. Sorry, nerds. He's not supposed to be murdering people with red laser eyes.
Yeah, he's not supposed to. He's not supposed to be 9/11ing his own.
Yeah, sorry, Snyder boys. I'm gonna go hard on you right now. But the thing, I feel like this new step, this Gods and Monsters chapter, is a good step into the DC universe because we need some levity. We need some brevity. The
Hmm.
Snyder movies were just so heavy and just so
Hmm.
overwhelming. It was just like we were talking
It
about
was.
Batman vs Superman earlier. It was just
Hmm.
like such a bummer. Like you don't want to feel
Hmm.
bad watching Batman vs Superman fight. So
Hmm.
with these movies, I think we're getting and these shows, we're getting a chance to see different sides of the DC universe we haven't seen in years because it's
Hmm.
just been Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman for like 30 years. So we're getting
Hmm.
to see characters like I don't know anything about Creature Commandos or the Authority, but I feel like in the right hands, he's going to be something special.
Hmm.
I think a lot of these films
Yeah.
are going to be a lot of these shows are going to be something worthwhile because unlike the past DC projects, excluding The Dark Knight. Don't worry, I like that one.
Hmm.
Uh, there has been a lot of passion and a lot of like care
Hmm.
for it. You're gonna be like, all right, film it, show it,
Hmm.
throw it out. I feel
Hmm.
like
Yeah.
we're
That.
now getting
Yeah.
somewhere where
Hmm.
there's some love put into these recipes. So I'm
Hmm.
very excited for the future.
Yeah. Where. Yeah. And to my thoughts on this. So I adore the DC universe. I have a framed poster of all of the DC characters in my bedroom right now.
Yeah.
And nothing nothing bummed me out more than the years 2016 to 17 watching this fucking Frankenstein's monster of a franchise butcher characters that I grew up loving. It felt like my childhood was getting kicked in the balls repeatedly, except for Wonder Woman. I still kind of like that first movie. But the biggest problem with Warner Brothers and their attempt at that franchise is they were trying to wholesale copy the MCU without doing any of the legwork that the MCU put in. And
Oh yeah.
something that I think already is a step in the right direction of this, and something that I think is a good sign that of the hiring of James Gunn and Peter Safran is a the talent that is currently in the writers room of these, because you're not getting like guys who are as hit or miss like David S. Goyer, guys who are I'll say it, like a two hit wonder like David Ayer. You're not getting guys who I consider hacks like that. You're getting writers who clearly love this material, who understand the nuances of comics, who guys who people who've worked in this realm, whether it be with Warner Brothers and DC or with other studios, guys like Drew Goddard, like Jeremy Slater, like Christophe Henry, even bringing in one of the most acclaimed writers of the last couple of years in Tom King. And having a clear cut plan where kind of playing into James Gunn's strength as a comic book writer and using these larger than life characters, because even though we have a Batman and Superman title announced, we got a lot more characters announced for big projects that I didn't even know who the fuck you were talking about. Like I had no idea about Creature Commandos. I had no idea about the Authority. And
Mhm.
even to like the general public, characters like Booster Gold, like Swamp Thing, I'm guessing the characters that we're going to see in Paradise Lost, those are the lesser known characters. And we're getting a concrete plan of a DC universe. We're getting, even if it's like not steps I would have expected, like using Damian Wayne as the Robin for Brave and the Bold, there is still potential there because that is supposed to be introduce the Bat Family. Introducing Damian, you leave room to introduce characters like Nightwing, like Red Hood, like Tim Drake, like Batgirl. You
Mhm.
introduce so much room in there into that kind of strained father son dynamic between Bruce and Damian. Superman Legacy is probably the one I'm most looking forward to I because Superman is supposed to be the ultimate optimist. He is the ultimate existentialist. He knows that with his power, he could kill every single one on Earth. And he knows, in spite of all of that, he still chooses to be human. And that is what makes the Man of Steel so great. It's not the powers, it's not this like godlike severity that people have for him. It's that he chooses to be one of us.
Amen. Let's preach, brother.
All right.
and just having a clear, concrete direction and a somewhat singular guiding vision, and something that James finished this announcement. We put story first. We put the story that these writers, that these directors are putting forth, as long as everything is wholly unique to their vision of that character back in, then we're Gucci.
All I have to say to James Gunn and Peter Safran and all the writers, just when you're doing Superman, just don't do Doomsday right now. just you got a whole lot of Superman villains waiting for you. You got Metallo, you got Brainiac. You can even bring in, I'd love
Mm-hmm.
to see Mon-El. All those
Mm-hmm.
other Kryptonians.
Yeah, and
Theo.
something that Gunn said in this announcement. It's like, it's not the Gunverse. It's not, which is something that I think hindered the Snyder version of the DC universe. Because what makes DC Comics so fun is that it is all of these different flavors and tone coming together in the same world. That is what makes DC Comics so special. It's because all these stories are so wildly different, and yet they still somehow fit into the same realm. And even Gunn was saying it's got to be all of these different feels from all these different stories. That's what makes it fun. Stories are completely different, and each has the individual expression of the writers and the director that are making those projects.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Amen.
And James Gunn, being a director, writer himself, maybe can,
Mm-hmm.
sympathize with other director writers coming on to projects, not wanting to be absorbed by just the
Mm-hmm.
big machine that is, these
Yeah.
companies that do these
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
projects.
and not just being a director himself, but being one of the most acclaimed directors, being a guy who was working on that indie scene, who was doing who got his start working for Trauma, and was one of those announcements, like when he was announced to do Guardians of the Galaxy. I knew him from Super, and I was like,
Yeah.
huh?
Yeah.
Wait,
Same here.
him?
Same here. Like, I'll never forget, like, me, my brother, shout out to Brandon, we're both Marvel
Mm-hmm.
nerds, and we
Mm-hmm.
knew nothing about Guardians of the Galaxy. Next thing I know, we go to the premiere, and me and my mother were just
And then
weeping over we
yeah,
are Groot.
and then we go, and then I went to see it with my brother and walking to the car, and we're just going,
Oh yes,
Yeah.
ah,
soundtrack of the
I'm gonna
millennium.
Mm. Yeah.
and just having a guy that has been on both sides of that studio equation, being the guy who was working on the indie scene, being the guy who was the big tentpole director, being the guy who was on the producer side, just working on stuff like producing stuff like Peacemaker, producing and writing stuff like Belko Experiment or Brightburn,
Mm.
Right.
being on the production side and having a guy who is more of a producer, is more of the business savvy, like a Peter Safran, and letting James Gunn handle shit creatively. You are in good hands.
You guys don't need to worry. It's gonna be great.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, unless Superman Legacy sucks,
Then we're fucked.
go
Oh
ahead and
no,
eat.
it's over.
In which case, I'll eat my words in 2025 when.
Uh, yeah. So it's nice they wrote this plan. 10 projects coming up pretty soon. And
And just keep in mind, this likely isn't all of the projects
Oh yeah,
that
this
have
is
been
just
announced.
part
These are
one.
just the ones that and I don't even think this is everything that we're seeing in part one, because this is just the projects that he's been able to announce. So these are the ones that have gotten some kind of legs in development as of right now, and the ones
Mhm.
that have somewhat of a release date. And
mm,
even something like Creature Commandos, which is in production right now, and he's writing Superman Legacy as we speak.
Mhm.
yeah. Um, and speaking of, like, mostly of like the actors who are already in these roles, Henry Cavill, we already know he's not coming back. And Gunn
Mhm.
mentioned that, and said that, he's like, who was never my Superman, never casted him, never put him in the role, so he's not coming back. Whether Jason
Mhm.
Momoa will stay on, Ezra Miller, people like that. James Gunn is, him and Safran have praised the Flash movie, says it's the greatest superhero movie they've ever seen. So the test screenings for the Flash have been really good. They got really great test screenings, but who knows?
And even James Gunn has said it's one of the best superheroes I've ever seen, which I mean, you're the head of DC Films right now, and I guess it probably isn't the best look to be shit talking a movie that is coming out from a studio that you have taken over.
Yeah.
We gonna see. I mean, I love the Flash, but Ezra Miller.
I love the character of the Flash. I hate Ezra Miller, but if the movie's good, I'll fucking eat my words. Fuck him still. Fuck them still. But
they crazy. Yeah. But see you in June.
Yeah. All right. So, that was James Gunn, DC.